What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
The best piece of advice I ever received is that's from my coach, is that there are no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic timeframes. I think that's brilliant. That brings me confidence that I can do anything because we're always in a rush. We
Mm-hmm.
always want it done tomorrow. We always want it done. I want to be a millionaire in 3 months or 6 months or a year. Well, you could be a millionaire. You could be a 10 millionaire. That's not an unrealistic goal. It's just whatever time frame you apply might be unrealistic. So
Sure.
that's my favorite piece of advice.
The following is my conversation with Michael Sarracini. Michael is an award-winning entrepreneur and real estate investor. He started over 20 years ago as a university student with nothing but debt and the drive to succeed, and ended up turning a small government loan into a multi-million-dollar real estate empire that allowed him to retire at 25. With his new freedom, he explored other industries, including television, e-commerce, real estate development, and private education. Today, Michael is the CEO of Keyspire and the chairman of the Sarracini Group. He focuses on adding value to people through personal development and education, and adding value to land through strategic partnerships and development. Enjoy our conversation. Michael, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hey, Daniel, thanks for having me. This is great.
Of course, and excited to talk a lot about real estate today and your entrepreneurial journey. And I have a lot of really fun real estate journey and some tactical questions to ask you. But just to get started, I have a quick question. So, reading a little bit about your story, you had a really unique college experience, we'll put it that way. And before I get into the crux of that, knowing what you know now, do you regret going to college?
Oh, you know what? So it's a great question. No, I would say I don't regret anything because every moment of my life brought me to here. If I didn't go to college, I wouldn't have gone through the journey that I needed to go through to get to here. Would I be upset if my kids didn't go to college? No, absolutely not, because
Mhm.
I don't think it determines where you're going to land, but it's part of my story and I wouldn't change that.
Got it. Fair enough. I think over time, on a personal note, while college can be great for certain careers, I think over time we've realized that there's such a democratization of education that really you can learn anything online, in a quick time. So it will be a
Mhm.
really interesting dynamic to see going forward. But on another note, and to get a little more into the tactical sense of what you're up to, a bit of an aside here. I know a lot of what you do is real estate investing. And I've read about you, and you had this thought that the first week of October is the best time to buy real estate. So I'd love to hear from the expert perspective why that is.
Yeah, the first week, I mean, so real estate's super seasonal, right?
Mhm.
There's times every year real estate goes up and down and up and down. So you have a chance every year in a
Mhm.
predictable cycle to buy at the troughs and to sell or refinance at the peaks.
Mhm.
Uh, so October, it depends on your strategy. So for me, October was great for getting into student rentals, which was my very first niche in my business, student
Mhm.
rentals. Because what happened in October 1st is all the students moved in September, and by October 1st, any landlord who had vacant property started thinking about, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to. There was landlords with vacant properties that would start to want to sell. And we're like,
Mhm.
okay, and then we're getting into the winter season, um, November, December, January, where you have that dip in pricing. So you kind of have this double whammy of getting a good deal, which is landlords of student homes would be vacant. So
Mhm.
vacancy always drives a motivated seller, regardless of the quality of the property. But then when you look in October and you start putting in offers for 30 or 60 or even 90-day closing, depending on the market, you're getting to closing. You're in kind of that period where they really want to sell and nobody else is buying or putting in offers into December and
Mhm.
January. And so October provides that kind of double-ended opportunity to get a good deal on a property. And a good deal means you're going to pay less than what the market value would be, or you're going to pay less than what you would normally to get your rental income and your ROI.
Got it. So due to seasonality, if there's a landlord that's not able to get some kind of occupancy in, say their rental, and they're just trying to offload it, a great time to jump in would be in October, just because those people or those landlords are more focused on selling properties as opposed to kind of waiting the market out.
Yeah, you got it. And then July is the second sweet spot with student rentals because what happens in July is you get that seasonal dip. when people are less motivated to buy properties, and especially into August. But what happens is you can buy a student rental and rent it for September and advertise an 8-month lease.
Mm-hmm.
So most students will rent 12 months. In most market, you want to rent for 12 months. You don't want to sit vacant for the summer. But if your listing says 8-month lease, then you're more attractive, and they'll even pay more per month because overall for the year they're paying less. So July, there's a technique in July there with student rentals as well. Now the second year you're going to go 12 months, but once they're already in, they're in. So it's like that promo for the first period, and then you get your tenant in year over year.
Interesting. On a bit of a side note, I wish I had that back when I was in college. I think all we had at Penn State was 12-month leases. So if any landlords are up there, I hope you guys are listening. So really,
Yeah.
really appreciate the note on there. To kind of move on to another thing I wanted to discuss. So a lot of what you do, and we'll get into the Keyspire journey, is coaching and helping others achieve financial freedom through real estate. So I think this will be a fun question for you to answer. If someone came up to you and said, "Hey, Mike, I have $0 in my bank account, but I want to get into real estate," what advice would you give them?
I would say if you have $0 in your bank account, the best business you can get into is real estate, because it's the easiest business to use other people's money on.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to use other people's money to go out and buy a franchise or to start something from scratch. But since real estate it's a tangible brick and mortar investment with a proven track record of thousands of years of holding value and increasing value and being able to generate income, it is the single best business for somebody that has no money.
Got it. Really an interesting note on there. How about this? What's something about real estate investing that most people don't know?
Something about real estate investing that most people don't know is, I would say that the thing about real estate investing that most people have to know is its ability to leverage. I don't know if most people don't know this, but I think most people don't know the power of leverage with real estate. So let me give you a quick example. If you were to take real estate's main competitor of investing money, which is the stock market, the public markets, right? So if you have a chunk of money and you want to invest, you can either invest in real estate or the public market. Now there's other things. There's crypto. You can invest in fine art. You can invest in fancy cars and hope they go up in value. You can invest in watches. But no, let's cut out all the noise and say the two main options are real estate and the public market. Well, if you want to go in the public market and you want to invest $100,000 so you can watch your $100,000 grow, how much money do you need, Daniel, to invest $100,000 in the public market? $100,000. Mm-hmm. You're going to go to wherever you're going to go, your portfolio manager, say, "Hey, I want to invest $100,000." They'll say, "Okay, give me $100,000." In real estate, the power of leverage cannot be underscored, because if you want to invest $100,000 in the real estate market, you don't need $100,000. You don't need $90,000. You don't need $70,000. You need as little as $20,000 or 20% down. In fact, some lenders will go 5 or 10% down. Mm-hmm. $100,000 investment for $5,000. I think most people know this, but I don't think people understand how significant this is and why this makes real estate the absolute best investment of anything on the planet. Because people are willing to, and I'll just use the banks as an example, the banks are willing to give you a very lot of asset, a very lot, my hands are huge right now, for a very tiny bit of money. The same banks that are running these portfolios saying, "Nope, you can't invest in my portfolio for $100,000 unless you have $100,000 because we're not really sure how it's going to do. It's risky. It's volatile. It could be up one day. The president could tweet something, or there could be a war in a different country. It could be down the next day. We have no control of that. Oh, but you're going to invest in real estate? We know that's historically the most stable asset. We know that we're going to get our money back. We know that your chance of loss is as low as possible. So we'll give you 80% of the value in a loan." So the leverage in real estate not only is the most important thing I want people to know, but it also it proves the fact that real estate is the best investment, because it's what people are willing to leverage. People are willing to lend their money to you on as collateral.
So I really appreciate the explanation there, and really great advice on that. And if I could add something to it, I think a lot of times people may have fear, especially in this environment with where interest rates are and kind of no certain future about where they're going to go. But I think people, especially, ideally real estate investors or people who are going to become real estate investors, should think long term and think about how the returns may compound over time. And that compound return is probably going to surpass wherever interest rates are now. So I guess just something to keep food for thought. But another topic to get into, and I'm sure you've heard about AI probably every hour of every day because it seems to be
Yeah.
the new hot thing these days. But as someone that's been in the industry for a while, what impact do you think AI will have on real estate?
The real estate investing industry and AI. So I think what we're seeing in AI in the
Mhm.
real estate industry is similar to every business, which is you can do more work and better work with less resources. And so it's not a matter of AI replacing people. AI is not going to replace people. Maybe one day in the future, but we're going to be all gone. But in the more medium term, in terms of the future, 5 years, 10 years, AI is not going to replace people. People that know how to use AI are going to replace people.
Yep,
And so what happens is you can bring on a team member, and one team member can output amazing quality in less time using AI. What type of output is this? Well, this is uh, writing your rental ads. You're going to rent properties as an income property investor, which I am, and which a lot of our community is at Keyspire. So you can write amazing ads, even though you're not a writer. You can do so many things with AI when it comes to real estate investing.
for sure. And I think people have to keep in mind, maybe that doomsday will come thousands of years down the line when we're all gone and we don't know what the world will look like. But I think in our immediate lifetime or the next lifetime, I think the major key here is to not be scared of AI, but learn how to use AI to really leverage, pun intended from what you said earlier, to leverage your output. So really great note
Yeah,
on there.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I want to just underscore how important it is. Anyone who's got kids watching this, or if you're going to have kids one day, if they're going to learn a skill, have it be AI.
For
Have
sure.
it be coding. I'm going to give you a quick story of I have a 9-year-old, and he's the self-proclaimed tech guy. He loves technology.
That's
And
awesome.
so I've been talking about Chat GPT because I want to foster and encourage him learning AI without forcing him or making it unfun. So I just dropped the little nuggets. I talk about Chat GPT, and he came up to me about 2 months ago. He said, "Dad, can you get me a Chat GPT account?" And I said, "Oh, why do you want it?" He's like, "I just want to, experiment with it and stuff." I said, "No problem." It was like perfect. It's exactly the seed that I planted 6 months ago that started growing. And so I got him an account, and he's playing around with it. And then after 2 days, I walked over to his computer area, and he had ChatGPT open. And what he wrote in there, Daniel, was amazing. For a 9-year-old, he had watched YouTube to learn how to write the right prompts, did his research, and he wrote, "How write me." Oh, he said, "How do I?" And I'm paraphrasing. I took a screenshot because it was
Mhm.
amazing. "How do I convince my parents to let me get a cat? Speak in the voice of a 9-year-old boy who loves technology and who doesn't like to do a lot of work." And that's what he wrote into AI at 9 years old. Um, and so my point here, and the output, Daniel, was
Mhm.
amazing. Like I'm like, this is pretty convincing. So my point here is, if you have kids, or you have nieces or nephews, or you're going to have kids, get them on this skill, because these skills compound, like you
Mhm.
said, compounding. We don't worry about compound money. I shouldn't say that. My focus isn't my money compounding, it's my skills compounding.
Mhm.
So if I can start learning a skill at 9 years old, or 15 years old, or 20 years old, that compounds over the years. So by the time I'm 30 or 40 years old, you become a master at the skill because it compounds.
For sure. And I think
It's my AI.
no, that's really, really good AI explanation. I think people have to realize that you shouldn't worry about the money so much as the skill set. Because the way I think you really accumulate wealth, you become very, pun intended, again, I guess, very valuable in a skill set, or very versed in a skill. And then that level of competency compounds. I know I'm saying this word 17 times, so apologies for that,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but compounds over time. And ultimately, you become more valuable, and society will repay you as a result. So, really great that you were able to have that little exercise with your 9-year-old son. And I think it's awesome to see the next generation picking up on this stuff. And I think it'll advance society for the better. But to switch gears a little bit here, so you started real estate investing when you were in college, and you actually have a business partner that you've done a lot of your real estate deals with. And reading about your story, there was something that I found really interesting. You had student loans, and instead of using them for school, you used them for something else. So the next thing I wanted to ask, What went through your mind when you used those student loans for buying real estate instead of using them for school?
I'm brilliant. That's what went through my mind. This
Mm-hmm.
is this is amazing. Why aren't more people doing this? That's what went through my mind. Um, but yeah, no, the reality is there's something called OPM, other people's money.
Mm-hmm.
We talked earlier about how real estate is the best uh, investment if you have no money, because you can use other people's money and you can actively add value. You can't do that with almost any other investment.
Mm-hmm.
Try investing in fine art and then actively adding value with a paintbrush. You're going to ruin the investment.
Mm-hmm.
So real estate, we could use other people's money. So that's exactly what I did. To use my student loan. But it wasn't enough, my student loan. So I needed a partner to bring their student loan. And between the two of us, we had enough money to buy that first property. And then once I bought that property, well, so what? I'm not going to wait 10 years for it to increase in value. I'm not going to be in control of the real estate market. What am I going to do? I'm going to actively affect the value by my actions and by my decisions. So we went in and we renovated the property. We added bedrooms. By adding bedrooms, you add income. By adding income, you add value. That was all other people's money. I did that with a Home Depot credit card. You can go get a credit card at the big box store. I don't know if it's right now, but they have their promotions where you go in, you get a $5,000 credit card, and you got no interest, no payments for 6 months. After 6 months, you get killed on interest and payments.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you pay it off before 6 months, you're golden. You just got an interest-free loan, OPM, off of your credit card. But don't take that credit card. Most people take that credit card and go buy something for the house and then never pay it off.
Yep.
I use those credit cards as business lines of credit, unsecured business lines of credit. So another form of OPM. So when you ask me about my student loan, I thought I couldn't believe that everybody wasn't doing this. I didn't realize that, like, what's going on? Am I missing something? What I'm missing is people are afraid. People are afraid of debt. We're brought up in a society. We're brought up in from a post-war generation that was living in scarcity, that came out of debt,
Mm-hmm.
that the interest rates were into the 20%. So debt is very scary from our parents, from our grandparents. No matter what generation you are, you're living today, somebody has translated down the fear of debt. And that's why people don't do it.
For sure. And I have a few theories. I was about to say theories on debt that I think if I would get into them, they could probably be in and do a podcast themselves. But I think broadly, I would say that you have to tolerate some kind of level of risk if you want to have some kind of return. You can only get so far being so conservative in your investing approach. So really appreciate you sharing that story. But as a quick follow on, I'm sure you had a lot of learning opportunities investing in that first property. So what were some mistakes you made kind of with that first investment that you didn't make moving forward?
Mistakes. So some mistakes with my first property. Yeah, it's a good question, because one of the most important things that I did as I was investing is I kept a journal of everything. And in my journal, I wrote down all of the successes and all of the failures.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I encourage anybody who is in any business or any form of want to improve in life, keep a journal. Write down what works, write down what doesn't work. And the stuff that doesn't work, either fix it or don't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make those mistakes again. And there's no winning and losing in life if you use this journaling approach. There's only winning and learning.
Yep.
And so at Keyspar, we like to create a group of winners and learners, because we want people to take their healthy mistakes and turn those into strategies for the future, turn those into plans and blueprints so that they can avoid the alligators. So my first mistake I may have made on that first property, well, I probably paid too much because I didn't understand some of the seasonality of real estate investing. I didn't understand putting in 10 or 15 offers in order to get the one that is below market.
Mm-hmm.
I probably took too long to renovate the property because I was still learning. The one mistake that comes to mind, though, there is one that comes to mind. The first drywall job I did. So I had no experience in renovations. I would go to the Home Depot University on Sunday mornings in college, little hungover, sometimes a lot hungover, after a night of partying, and I would be dedicated to go sit there at 9 or 10 a.m. And every Sunday they'd have a different seminar, drywall, flooring, paint, door, like all the stuff that we do as a real estate investor. So the mistake I made Um, Before I went to the Home Depot University, which by the way, for free, made me more money than my $50,000 college degree.
That's
Um,
been in modern education. I'll just leave it at that.
yeah, that's right. And so the mistake I made is I hung my drywall sheets. Have you ever done drywall?
I have not. No,
Okay.
not in real estate. I'm in media.
Okay, good. Well, drywall has a side. There's a side that you put on the outside, and there's a side that touches the stud or the wood.
Hmm.
But I didn't know this. So my drywall job looked like a checkerboard because they're both different colors.
Hmm.
So I had my drywall one way and another. I was just placing them however. And then I hired a guy to do all the mudding because I didn't know how to do that. I said, I'm going to hire a guy for this first round. He walks in and he goes, what the hell is going on here? I said, it's great, isn't it? Look at this. I was so proud, 20 years old. I was so proud of my drywall job. He said, I can't do this. You can't paint. First of all, you can't paint this backside. That goes to the wall. I can't mud the joints. He told me 100 reasons why it can't be done that way. And then I had to take them down. I had to redo them. So I'm going to say that was my biggest mistake on that first property was hanging drywall wrong, which seems so trivial, but if you've never learned before, then it's a fair mistake to make. So there
Well,
you go. If you've never done it, Daniel.
got it. Well, I like how you said you either win or you learn. So great that you got to learn from there, and I'm sure that didn't repeat itself again.
Okay, I've never done that again. Right?
Yeah, you learn from your mistakes. So one of the things that you mentioned was Keyspire, and after a few years, you and your partner were fortunate enough to be really successful in this real estate space, but decided to kind of keep going instead of just hanging up and enjoying the passive income. So why, way back when, did you decide to start Keyspire?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll give you a little bit of the path that I took.
Mhm.
For the first 5 years of my real estate investing, I started in the year 2000. 2000 and 2005, I didn't take a dollar out of the business.
Mhm.
Or if I took a dollar, it was a dollar. It was very little money. I took all the money, I poured it back into the business. I was going to school. I was a waiter at a restaurant to make as much cash as I could, as much money as I could for my renovations, and I would pour all my money back into the business. I went to college for 5 years to get that extra student loan for that extra fifth year. So kind of a fun little
Smart,
thing.
huh?
People are like, why are you going the fifth year? You want to get your master's degree? I'm like, I'm definitely going to get an MBA, but it's not going to be a piece of paper. It's going to be a massive bank account.
Mhm.
So I went an extra year to get that extra student loan. And it wasn't until 5 years that I had 5 year term mortgages. They started coming due after 5 years.
Mhm.
And I realized how much equity I'd built in all of my properties. And then so I went and I did a strategy called flipping to yourself, which instead of selling the properties, which is most of our natural instinct, it's like,
Mhm.
holy shit, there's $150,000 here. I'd never seen $150,000 in my life.
Mhm.
Instead of selling it and putting that cash in my pocket and then spending it on God knows what, cars and vacations, I refinanced the property. I got about 100 grand out. So you get a little less out, but I got to keep that property, that income property, paying rent every month.
Mhm.
So at year 5, I had flipped to myself a number of properties. And year 6, year 7, year 8, they started coming up for renewal. And literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash that I can now then multiply again over the next 5 years
Mhm.
and create this snowball effect. But about year 6, we realized that we could make a TV show based on our business
Mhm.
model. And we were approached by a network, and they said, "We want you guys to do a flipping show." I said, "Well, we don't really flip properties. I don't want to do all the work and give the property to someone else. To me, that didn't make any sense. I want to keep the properties because I want to have the income." They said, "No, we got to have a flipping show. It's going to be great. There's going to be, you do a renovation, you get $100,000 check." I said, we said, "How about this?" My business partner said, "How about this? We go in, we do a renovation, and we make an extra $300 a month." That's not exciting. And so we ended up getting this show, doing this model, and starting this show called Income Property. And that was in 2006. And here we are, what are we, 2024, 18 years later.
Yeah, crazy.
And it's over 40 countries, multiple languages, longest running real estate investing show ever, because the principles are sound, they're simple. We're going to create rental income for life. After the third season, I left the show to create Keyspire because there were so many questions. People are asking, well, how do I get a contractor? How do I get financing? How do I run the numbers? Things that you just can't cover in 21 or 22 minutes on TV. So I started taking that journal I told you about,
Mhm.
8 years of journaling or 7 years of journaling. And I said, this is something that people could follow. So turn that journaling into courses. and events. And we started doing live events. And our very first event with Keyspire was in 2010. And so from there, we did these live events. At the events, people asked for coaching. How do we get coaching? How can I talk to you? How can I talk to your team? So we created the best coaching program for real estate investors on the planet. Coming out of that, we've been running that for 14 years, and we have absolutely amazing results. And so that's how Keyspire got started. First, as we were real estate investors, turn it into a TV show, turn the TV show questions into live events, and turn the live event demand into coaching.
That's awesome and incredible that you've been able to help out a lot of people in their journeys. And I think it's definitely also something really fulfilling. But to get into, a bit more to kind of retrospective approach here, say if, for example, if you lost everything and had to restart tomorrow, what would be step one?
Okay, step one, I would buy real estate. So step one, I would start buying real estate. I would be an active real estate investor. What does that mean? I would actively go in and renovate properties. Now, 24 years ago when I started, I went in and did it myself. That's not how I would do it here 24 years later. I would be the manager of the deal because of what I know. The best thing for people to know, Daniel, is you can take away all somebody's money, all of their assets, but there's one thing that you can never take away is their capabilities, their knowledge.
Skill set.
Their skill set. So with these capabilities, I can now achieve that, what I achieved back then much faster. So because I have a unique set of resources, what I would do is I would put deals together and I would find investors to raise money that I would raise money from. And I would find the deals and I would put everything together and I would buy real estate, millions of dollars of real estate with other people's money.
Got it. That's a great way.
That's what I would do.
That's a great way to kind of summarize that. And I also think that people, when they're so worried about money, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of it comes back to the skill set. So it's not ideal to start from zero, but in the back of your head, the skill set that you have, and you can streamline that much more instead of kind of where you were way back when. So really great note on there.
Yeah. But, and Daniel, just to comment on that, everybody's at zero at some point. We're all born naked at zero, right? So we all start at zero at some point. And if anyone's listening and you're at zero, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes when you've got nothing to lose, you make the greatest progress. When the urgency is on the line, that's when you're going to make the greatest progress. And I know for me, part of my progress starting was I had nothing to lose. I had no money when I was 20 years old. In fact, I had negative money. After my first year of university, I had like negative $10,000 for my student loan and for my debt. So when you got nothing to lose is sometimes when you make the greatest progress.
For sure. And if I could summarize in a quote, every expert was once a beginner too. So everyone's gotta start somewhere. So I'll leave it at that. But on a similar note, what's the best piece of advice you ever received?
The best piece of advice I ever received is from my coach, is that there are no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic timeframes. I think that's brilliant. That brings me confidence that I can do anything because we're always in a rush. We always want it done tomorrow. We always want it done. I want to be a millionaire in 3 months or 6 months or a year. Well, you could be a millionaire. You could be a 10 millionaire. That's not an unrealistic goal. It's just whatever time frame you apply might be unrealistic.
For sure.
So that's my favorite piece of advice.
I think it's a great piece of advice. And if I could add on to, I think stuff compounds day by day. It's great to have a vision, but I think people can be motivated. But I think what's really underrated is that consistency is what will get you through all those hard days and get you through where you want to get to. So really great note on there. And how about this? If you could go back in time and tell your 20-year-old self something, what would it be?
If I could go back, okay. So first of all, this is a loaded question because that's
the point of the podcast.
yeah. It's a great philosophical question because I don't want to say anything to myself. I don't want to F it up. I like where I am. I like the journey. And there's always the chance if you tell yourself something, it's going to change, even if I give myself the right advice. So I will temper this. I will answer your question, but I will temper it with the idea. The real answer is I wouldn't say anything. I watched Back to the Future with my kids not too long ago, and I know how much you can mess things up. However, what I would say if I were to say something, I would tell myself the sooner that I can get clear on my unique ability, on my unique value add to the world, the sooner, the faster, and the faster I will be wealthy, the more impact I'll make, and the more fun I'm going to have doing it. That is what I've learned in 24 years. If you can identify what you do better than anyone else, what you love to do, what drives you passion, what you would do if you didn't get paid any money for it, if it was absolutely free. Like, so I love doing this. This is what I love to do, is to educate people. And I don't get paid to do this, but I'm here and I am giving my knowledge because I absolutely love to do it. So, whatever you would do for free is what you should be doing for money is another way to look at it.
That's great advice. So I think you would just tell them to enjoy the journey.
And you know what? Have fun. Like, if you're not having fun, stop doing it. There's no amount of money in the world that can substitute for fun. There's a lot of miserable billionaires out there, and there's a lot of happy people that don't have $1 billion. So gotta have fun.
For sure. And heavy emphasis on that last point. But, Michael, it's been an incredible time and really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge. And on a parting note here, there's a ton of really great and big real estate investors out there. But if you had to pick one, who's one real estate investor that you'd love to get dinner with?
One real estate investor that I would love to have dinner with. That's a great question. A real estate investor. Okay. If you can, everyone who's successful is a real estate investor. So I can expand your question to anyone who's successful.
They could be dead or alive.
I would have dinner with Tony Robbins. He owns lots of real estate, so I'll consider him a real estate investor, but I really appreciate what he does. And that's who I would have dinner with.
It's a great answer to that question. And Mike, it's been an absolute blast of a time, and really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge and a lot of those cool stories. And thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Michael Sarracini. If you enjoyed the episode, rate the show on Spotify, drop a comment on YouTube, and subscribe.